advancement. And whoever goes to them is certainly cheated in his turn. When one is thus cheated, he sometimes takes shelter of the real followers of Vedic principles, Brahmanas or those in Krishna consciousness, who teach everyone how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to the Vedic rituals, however, being unable to stick to these principles, these rascals again fall down and take shelter among Shudras, who are very expert in making arrangements for sex indulgence. Sex is very prominent among animals like monkeys, and such people who are enlivened by sex may be called descendants of monkeys. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayarupa Kadamayam Padantikam Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sukta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Devashaya Shunavadi Ashatyade Shatarine. Krishna, dear devotees, those present in person and those online, we have quite an audience. Thank you for coming. And we continue and I call it a heavy chapter because even this realistic chapter describes the force of material enjoyment. Srila Prabhupada is very, very heavy in those purports because the verses are heavy. So what can be done? Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would say, I think you're a nice person, but Krishna says, Mudha. So I just have to repeat. So Srila Prabhupada always behaved like a gentleman. At the same time, he had to point out the truth, the absolute truth, not changing the meaning of the verses that are spoken by Krishna or his devotees. So this purport starts with materialistic people that are sometimes, attracted by different yogis and swamis and so-called transcendentalists, whereas themselves are, they have no idea. Sometimes they call themselves reincarnations or incarnations of God, but they themselves are lost by the illusory energy. Maya apakshita jnanam. The Maya has stolen their knowledge, and so their limited knowledge, conditioned knowledge, they think in this illusion that they know something. And I remember my New Zealand days, especially because I was trying to search for absolute. Usually did it is I went to different yoga clubs and mystics and teachers and like that, and sometimes we'll go to prana festival, and in that prana festival it was vegetarian festival, no alcoholic, like nice sattvic in one sense, and there were the different schools presented, Osho, and I don't want to name all those schools that were there, but they were like classical, like Buddhists and stuff, and then there were like New Age, mainstream esoteric, and all sort of, you get a whole scale of those different presenters of knowledge, and I would try to go there, this, that, the other, and ask questions, and sometimes got disappointed right there on the spot. Sometimes I didn't quite understand, and so I was just trying to be respectful. But now as later when I came across Bhagavad Gita devotees, eventually in that search, Although it was more accident than purposeful, specific, like that I targeted where the Hare Krishnas. I just got distributed the book during marathon. Prabhupada through devotees' compassion. We'll talk about it later. So, those different schools, they present the knowledge in a quiet, they try to present in a very solid way. It doesn't have there's no shastra behind it. Basically, there's no foundation, It's either foundation based on that founder who has created that whatever philosophy, and sometimes it's almost a little pathetic, like I went to one meditation session and they said, now you can meditate on this candle, on the vase of flowers, or the founder acharya of that particular movement. So I had no idea about this founder acharya at that time. I thought founder acharya, founder of that particular movement. And so there was a portrait of the person. So, well, I have no idea who he is, so why would I meditate on him? The flowers are nice, but like staring at the flowers for 5 minutes doesn't make any sense to me either. So I thought, okay, candle at least is good for eyes. My mom used to tell me, like when I was a kid, that if you look at the candle and you move the candle and it somehow heals eyes or trains eyes, like it's like an exercise. So that okay, I'll watch the candle. At least fire is kind of. So, but it was the meditation that was offered, and so I don't know who benefited from either or. Looking at flowers. Okay, you can appreciate the beauty of the roses, but staring at them for 5 minutes just doesn't make sense much. So and like this, schools, and somehow every time I just couldn't understand, why. Even with all respect to those in these traditions, like Buddhists, I also asked them, so what is the purpose? I said, you're teaching this for 20 years. What's the final goal? I said, well, that's samadhi, but we don't know what it is, and so, but once you get there, you feel the place and like that. So, well, so if you don't know what it is, how is it? And you're teaching it for 20 years. What's the guarantee that in 20 years' time, well, they will reach it? So you're teaching something that just doesn't, you can't even describe it properly. So I was a bit intense with those questions to the teacher, who, basically was not really knowing, and so I didn't want to embarrass him further. So I just apologized. Okay, I got it. You tried your best. But and then when you come to Krishna consciousness, all of a sudden, everything we just read today, the 10 of right in that last bit, we're saying that Krishna Prema Bhakti is the end goal of what we're aspiring for. And if you read in the Nectar of Devotion carefully, even that abbreviated version that Srila Prabhupada gave us, there's a whole description of what it is. You exactly know, at least theoretically, what it is, how the devotees feel like, what are those relationships, what are the rasas, how deep it is, and so you get the whole picture of the spiritual world available in the knowledge that just Srila Prabhupada gave us through presenting the previous acharyas in his books, in his purports. So how wonderful that is. You save yourself so much of trouble of searching and trying, and sometimes pretending, sometimes sensually trying to feel it. No, it's all there. It's all available through the Guru Parampara. And otherwise, we end up materialistic society, completely indulge in sex life, because what else to do? If you're a body, then you just fulfill those four propensities of mating, defending, and eating and sleeping. Those all are enjoyments, at least three are enjoyments for sure. And the prime and core one that satisfies mind the most, so-called satisfied, right? Because it only disturbs the mind more and more, because you keep igniting it in the passion. And as we hear here, tamaguna also, because that activity is very, very low actually. It's even from chakra's perspective, it's the lowest chakra, right? You got the 7 chakras, and uh, you know I forgot those things, Ajah, Anahata, or whatever, that heart chakra is at least where you start and reciprocation like that, and then you go to the Sahasrara chakra, whatever the name is, the topmost when you, the eighth chakra when you actually connect it with the Supreme. So this is the chakra, mula, root. This is the lowest of them all, and that's where people are trying to relate or base their connection with. So if people start doing this, so they're actually not much different to monkeys. And of course, in coming from not Vedic background, we all, I mean, myself also, have, been doing all this thing that everybody else does, and then come the pure devotees saving us, giving us this grace. And then this monkey sits and gives Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's just, if you think about it, it's just it's an astonishing what Srila Prabhupada does. But he also warns us. And he's writing here in this purport because it's a fifth canto, remember? This is ninth. So Srila Prabhupada already has a practical experience of this verse in reality. So that means that what Srimad Bhagavatam says, that verse itself says that uh, when one is thus chidi, he sometimes takes shelter of real followers of Vedic principles, the Brahmanas and Krishna conscious people. They try to teach them, but however, being unable to stick to these principles, again fall down and take shelter among Shudras, who are very expert in arrangements for sex indulgence. And Srila Prabhupada already has this experience when he elevates his disciples to status of sannyasis or renunciates. And then, even them, they fall down and go back to the previous, sometimes leaving the movement even and going back to those um, very low activities like the sex life, because the conditioning is too strong and they cannot, for one reason or the other, cannot follow. But instead of just sticking through that conditioning, not changing the philosophy, some of them, as Prabhupada says here in the purport, that some of them are even creating societies based on sex. So in other words, they started preaching a deviation. In fact, Srila Prabhupada was offered one by somebody, I forgot whether it was journalists or somebody had a debate with Prabhupada and said, fourth principle out, just leave it out, illicit sex. Just do the 3 principles, 16 rounds, everything, just leave it out. Then you have millions of followers. But Srila Prabhupada said, we don't need millions of stars, we just need few moons. That's all. Or 1 moon is enough. So he said sometimes even, just if I make one pure devotee in that all effort, I will feel that my mission is accomplished. So just to understand how severe it is, and strongly, speaking very strongly like a Sinha Guru, like his spiritual master, was strongly against all those Pashandis, very strongly. Once in Bombay, the Dr. Patel, they had quite many discussions, recorded morning walks, conversations. So they had an interesting relationship. They were kind of like friends, at the same time very quite often like opposing each other. And so this Dr. Patel dared one to say to Srila Prabhupada, criticized another such and such Swami, so-called incarnation, why are you so critical towards them? You have your truth, they have their truth, just leave them alone. Just do your thing. Just leave them alone. Why do you have to always, attack those people? And Srila Prabhupada stopped and looked at him very strongly. He said, if I'm a surgeon and I'm performing a surgical operation and there is some rascal that comes in and disturbs, I'll say, get out, get out. Prabhupada would strongly. And then he say, these people have no knowledge. They have destroyed the inheritance of Bhartavarsha. I have to stop them. So it was his duty. It's not that he's like inimical towards that. There is nothing to be inimical. They're actually lacking knowledge. What to be inimical? You usually inimical with somebody who possesses something higher than you. No, Srila Prabhupada was compassionate. But his compassion would sometimes be in a form of a rose petals. Some of his disciples, followers, he would be very, very gentle. And then sometimes he would be like a thunderbolt, both to his disciples if they're affected with Mayavad, or to those rascals who are actually bringing thousands to people to this misconceptions of life. That's where Prabhupada would be strong. And there were many, 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 many occasions when Prabhupada exhibited it. In Japan, he was sitting on this Vyasasan, and that Mayavadi, it was his turn to speak. And so they were saying, Prabhupada, yeah, it's time to go down, sit on a chair, and he would talk. Prabhupada ignored the request. He would just say, they wouldn't take Prabhupada by force, right? So he was just sitting there. And Burjan Prabhu, because they said you have to bring garland for this Swami also. So the way they did it, they made a beautiful, huge garland for Srila Prabhupada, fresh. And they took yesterday's garland of Srila Prabhupada, which was still opulent, but it was yesterday's garland of Srila Prabhupada. So they gave the Swami the Mahaprasad so he gets purified at least. And Prabhupada was sitting listening to him, and at some point, minute 25 or something, he just started to speak that basically offending the Lord, and that's what Prabhupada couldn't tolerate anymore. So he stop him, stop him. The devotees they had no idea what was going on. So he said, chant kirtan. So all those disciples are chanting kirtan. They just basically ruining the program for those who were expecting a nice katha of two saints, because they had no idea who is who. So like that. And so Srila Prabhupada was very straightforward in those dealings with those pseudo swamis, and rightly so, because imagine, as he said with this example of, I'm trying to make a surgery here, I'm saving a life, and then somebody comes and disturbs that. I would be very firm, saying, get out. I'm from an important surgery, you're disturbing. So because our knowledge is stolen by Maya, we don't understand really, deeply, we don't. Our acharyas are actually indeed saving us from the most hellish conditions, not only in this life, suffering the reactions of our sins, but also in the next life, and next life, and next life. So this is the grace, and this is the mercy of our acharyas. And today is the Tirabhav Mahotsava of Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. We would like to speak a few words about this great saint. Of course, his life is not as known as, say, Bhaktivinoda Thakur or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati or our Srila Prabhupada. And very simple merchant family. He was not very much educated or literate. He couldn't read even Shastra in one sense, in terms of deep Sanskrit shlokas. But because he was so pure-hearted Vaishnava, and he was so absorbed in chanting the holy name, his purity was extraordinary. He had one disciple in Vrindavan who cheated him, and so from that moment, Golkeshwar Das Babaji has either rejected the disciple, or at least the connection got. And he said, I will never take any more disciples in my life. That was his vow. So, and he followed to that vow with one exception of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, but that exception was Gauranga Mahaprabhu's intervention itself. So that he couldn't reject because he is a pure Vaishnava. Devotees follow what Krishna tells them to do. So when Yudhishthira Maharaj was always truthful, but when Krishna asked him to say, and because he disobeyed, or he said partial wisdom, the devotees blew the conch. At that moment, he said elephant, so he only said Ashwatthama, or whatever. So at that moment, his chariot got down to earth. He couldn't fly anymore because he actually disobeyed Krishna's order, because he was more attached to the Dharma. But Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamakam Sharana. You give up all the Dharma, whatever the Dharma is, being dharmic, truthful, whether it's Sri Dharma, that Dharma, that Dharma. At one point, be given up just to be focused on Krishna. So Gorkishwar Das Babaji will have to obey to Gauranga Mahaprabhu's desire. And also to save a Vaishnava from death, because at some point, and that's the story I would like to actually share today, because we don't have so many stories. There are some stories, but I would like to say just two stories or 2 points which touch me personally the most, and I think we should speak about what touches us the most. So when Gorkishwar Das Babaji was chanting his bhajan and was completely absorbed, he was trying to go to the places which were more like filthy and unclean, so that so general people don't disturb him, for blessings, because he's glorious as usually. The great Vaishnavas, they're also glorious. Even he took Babaji Avesha, which was a renunciate order, which was equal to sannyas. Basically, in Bhaktivinoda Thakur times, there was no such thing much as like a Tridandi sannyasa, going traveling as a renunciate. Usually renunciation would sit in Vrindavan, Mayapur, and just chant the holy names and completely be dependent on what Lord sends you in terms of prasad. And you perform a great tapasya austerity, you really control your tongue, you speak nothing, just the holy name and Bhagavad Katha, and hear nothing, just Bhagavad Katha, and you eat real morsel of food, sometimes nothing, depending on what's been sent. So a very, very austere, actually, lifestyle. And but his glories was known, and the only thing he liked to do, sometimes he would hear about this Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he would come to hear him. Even to Calcutta he came. So that he was really fond of. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, being a liberated soul, already great Vaishnava, sometimes even say that he is the seventh Goswami, and rightly so. So he, pure devotees see alike. So one pure devotee recognizes the other pure devotee. And of course, he knew that his son is extraordinary, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, a liberated soul and pure devotee. But as any pure devotee, he still needs guidance. He still needs spiritual master. This is Krishna's system. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur instructed him, or really recommended him, Bhaktisiddhanta, to take shelter at Diksha of Gaur Kishor Das Babaji. So the story I would like to mention today is their meeting. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati went to see Gaur Kishor Das Babaji, by that time he was very known in Vaishnava circles. Half of Bengal was after him as his disciple. Every Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati as their disciple. Why? Because he was a celibate from the beginning. He knew Bhagavad Gita and other Shastra by heart. He was Shrutidhara. He could learn immediately, from hearing. He didn't have to, sit down and memorize shlokas. He just once hears and he remembers. He learned English in like 1 week or so. He knew perfect astrology, was very good at those astrological charts and everything. He knew Shastra well. He was just an extraordinary personality. Very, very sharp, was bold in disputes already, and was winning those disputes. So he was quite famous and glorious, basically, in the area already. And so he went to Gorkishore Das Babaji. And, those glories follow such devotees. They, whether you hide from it or not, it's there. And the person recognizes that also. He has those. He possesses those. And so when the eyes meet of persons, we immediately recognize the stature, position, even from material perspective, and that's not something wrong. It's actually is described. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes this in either Jaiva Dharma or somewhere where you have to offer the respect to persons who are civilized. So there's this varnashrama. So you offer more respect as persons are more educated like that. And then if they have the material status in society, Mr. President, this, that, we also offer respect. It's not like we offer respect because of fear or something. No, we recognize this. Any position is karma. Karma means God law, and so he is there by God's grace in this position. So I have to recognize. But then it goes further and further. Above all is devotion, which is not easily recognized, by the way. Sometimes it's very much hidden. You cannot tell exactly how pure and devoted such a person is. He may be very simple, like Orkeshwar Das Babaji. Very simple. He was not educated, even not literate. But he was an exalted soul, a completely exalted. So when they met, Gorkeshwar met Bhaktan Saraswati, and he was not impressed at all. Can you imagine? Somebody's looking at you and is not impressed, and you have so much, and it's not just material, possessions or something, hell, fame, prestige, money. No, those are like already Vaishnava qualities. He was a gentleman. He was a Vaishnava. He was perfect in his behavior. He knew, so we can glorify for that. He was not impressed. When somebody is not impressed, that means he possesses something greater than even you have. So only such person can look at you with compassion. So Bhaktisant Saraswati explains exactly this point, that he received a glance of compassion from Gorkishore Das Babaji. Now I relate to my story, that of compassion, and I noticed those glances of compassion when I was walking Queen Street in Auckland, there and back to my work as a student in a coffee store, and then after I even graduated and got a job in a very nice company, I was still, walking that main street quite often. It's quite often. For 6 years straight, I was meeting devotees on the street. I even remember their faces. And sometimes I remember those glances, how they looked at me, especially Balgopal and Sukanti Radha. Those two I remember that they were looking at me with such, I was like, why are they looking at me with this glance of compassion? They're just selling something on the street. I'm young, healthy, I'm working in this Hamburgster shipping line company, I have money, I'm well-to-do, I'm educated, I'm studying philosophy or whatever I thought I'm studying. I just couldn't understand. I should be compassionate. Why are they looking with me with such compassion? That bothered me like anything. I was like, I was passing by, but I was always discomfortable because of that. Until one day, Bhadrasena Prabhu stopped me, and eventually I got the Bhagavad Gita because of their compassion. So what I'm trying to say is that and I didn't have any Vaishnava qualities, it was just a material possession, still, I felt kind of like it was awkward feeling when you receive this compassion, when you think you should not receive compassion. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he had all the Vaishnava qualities. So, usually a senior devotee serves a junior devotee. He serves prasadam. He takes care. And a senior devotee is always compassionate to the junior devotee because he possesses greater Krishna consciousness. So he wants to share that. Because he wants to share that, that person still doesn't have that in a full spectrum. That's why the compassion is naturally there. So it's not a bad feeling actually. But Bhaktisiddhanta was impressed with that it's the first person, he probably his father. But father has always, fatherly affection is mixed. It's not that's why in Vedic culture the uncles were in charge of punishing or educating the sons of their brothers, because there was no that uh, relationship as father-child. Because father is always kind. If you look at Nanda Maharaj, he cannot punish Krishna. It's just I mean, he tries, but he fails sometimes. So it just goes on since. And so he comes and he begs for initiation. Look, Shraddha's Baba says, all right, I will ask Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And if he tells me, then that's okay. I will accept you. So he goes away, he's very happy. He comes back, and then he asks again, so did you ask Gauranga Mahaprabhu? He said, oh yes, we met, but I forgot to ask. Bhaktisiddhanta was like devastated. So he comes back again. It goes on for some time, for weeks. He keeps forgetting asking. They meet him with Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He says that he meets the Lord, but he forgets to ask. And so at one point he says, my dear spiritual master, if you don't accept me as your disciple, I have no other choice but to commit suicide and jump into Ganga River. And he's been serious. Like he is so desperate to get the mercy of spiritual master. He sees no development spiritually without mercy of spiritual master. And when a person sees a genuine, sincere desire without other motivations, just to actually get the mercy of spiritual master so that one can develop his relationship with the Supreme. Because he knows Shastra. He knows that Tadiyanam, those who are connected with the Lord, are more dear to the Lord. I'm not able to quote this verse. So Krishna says that those who worship in my devotees are actually more dear to me than those who just worship me. Where's this? Service to devotees. Yes. In the Padma Purana, there is a nice statement praising the service of the Vaishnavas, or devotees. In this scripture, Lord Shiva tells Parvati, my dear Parvati, different methods of worship, and out of all such methods, the worship of the Supreme Person is considered to be the highest. But even higher than the worship of the Lord is the worship of Lord's devotees. So, Lord Shiva is a perfect Vaishnava. He is one of the Mahajans. 12 Mahajans, and he's also a founder of Rudra Sampradaya, so he knows what he's talking about. There's another statement, by the way, in the 3rd canto, 7th chapter, verse 19, Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me become a sincere servant of the devotees, because by serving them one can achieve unalloyed devotional service unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The service of devotees diminishes all miserable material conditions and develops within one a deep devotional love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are many, many more actually quotes like that. There's an Adi Purana, there's another chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is another one, Srimad Bhagavatam I want to quote. It's first canto. There's no doubt about one's becoming freed from all reactions to sinful activities after visiting a devotee or touching his lotus feet or giving him a sitting place. Even by remembering the activities of such a Vaishnava, is what we do now, one becomes purified along with one's whole family. And what then can be said of rendering direct service to him? So, now we're hearing about the glories of those Vaishnavas, we're getting purified. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, here for the direct service, how can you neglect that one time in life opportunity? And eventually he got accepted to the disciple. And he was glorifying his spiritual master like anything. Sometimes somebody would ask, like, you preaching, you're doing that much, and what is your spiritual master? He said, because he is chanting in this one place that gives me drive to do what I'm doing. He's my battery. By his chanting, he accumulates so much power that he transfers it to me while I'm doing all this Christian work. So, this is very important. In Pranam Mantra of Gaura Kisor Das Babaji, we are glorifying his quality of being absorbed in love in separation while being in this renunciation. He was absorbed in the love of separation with the Lord. So his chanting was imbued with those emotions. This is the most potent, this is the highest, actually, stage of love of Godhead. And another definition of spiritual master, he doesn't need anything from his disciple. Anything. He doesn't need dakshina. He doesn't need, this is just for our benefit that we're trying to render service. He reciprocates, he may accept, but he has no need for this. He's fully satisfied in his relationship to the Lord. When Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, his last final kind of years, he was getting blind. He actually became almost blind, if not totally blind, materially speaking. But spiritually, he still had his vision. And so once he managed to cross the Ganges at night and the jungle and got to somewhere when Bhaktisiddhanta met him, he was like, my dear master, how did you cannot see, how did you get through all of these distances? And he said, oh, my friend was with me, he helped. And what friend, like, there's nobody, you are there, like, I'm not alone. Because he said he helped me, he like almost like led my hand. And he was just smiling, like a child. So that friend was Krishna. And this is a very, very special point, because why we need tadvidhi pranipatne pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te gyanam tatvad darshanaha, they see the truth, because those not just seeing, but in the case of Gurjar, actively interacting with the absolute truth. That's why we're rendering service, asking questions. We need this humble attitude towards such persons, because they know the truth. And that's the way to please the Lord, to start pleasing their devotees. That's how we get the mercy. So I'll have to stop here, because we have to continue with Guru Puja and everything else. But I don't mind actually doing Guru Puja after deity greeting, so we can respond a little bit. But questions and comments from the audience, because it's a glorious day today, we can still have some time.
Hi, Bol, Venu-Madhurya Prabhu. Can you hear me?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you so much for a nice biography. As always, we always expect you to be the most expert in telling of the qualities and activities of these persons. You really are the expert in Vaishnava personalism. I just have a quick question. Is it true that Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj was illiterate? It did not read anything. Was he simply Shrutidara, or was he also reading text?
I cannot answer definitely to this. Judging by his answer in terms of when he was asked how to attain love of Godhead, and he said it costs only a few paisas. And they're like, well, what do you mean, few paisas? He said, in a few paisas you can buy Pratana and Bhakti Chandrika, what do you call Bhakti Rasa Chandrika, the second, the two the two songbooks of Narottam Das Thakur. You just buy those two, Pratana and Bhakti Chandrika. What's the Bhakti Prema? Bhakti Chandrika, I think. Sorry, Hare Krishna. My memory is Kaliga memory. So when you buy those two, and there's the simple Bengali songbooks, but they have, in Prabhupada said, every single song that Narottam Das Thakur has written, it's non different to Shastra, he said. And Gorkeshwar Das Babaji knew. So obviously he was singing those songs, whether he learned them by heart or actually read them, I don't know. But since he was coming from merchant family, I would presume he reads. Probably he didn't study Sanskrit. Maybe he couldn't read Sanskrit, as such. That maybe he heard, like Bhagavata Katha, maybe he heard. But he certainly knew the songs. He certainly knew how to read Bengali, I guess. More details to that. If somebody else knows, maybe Tarka Prabhu will correct me.
My understanding is that he did not read or write, but he nonetheless knew the Shastra very well simply by hearing.
Because the purity of the heart, you see, the knowledge is Divya Hridaya Prakashita. The knowledge is revealed to a person based on his purity of the heart, not based on being academically educated or like that. So, and that's the qualification. Otherwise, it would not be fair. That means that not everybody could be experiencing love of Godhead. But Krishna's system is such that everyone can love Godhead. Whoever Krishna decides to give this to. In fact, the simpler the better. And in fact, those simple people are actually more receptive to. I mean, when I'm saying now simple, I mean also that usually those less educated are more simple, and they are more receptive to the knowledge. So, like in villages, Srila Prabhupada also mentioned that in villages at his time, when you go to the villages, everybody would just come in the evening to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. There was like a village pandit who would come and just read, and everybody would sit and hear and got completely absorbed. So they knew all the Mahabharata stories, the Srimad Bhagavatam since childhood because it's been accustomed. And if you're pure-hearted, you absorb those stories; they become alive in your heart. In fact, because those personalities are eternal, and if you pray to them, they can bestow their mercy onto you also. And of course, he lived in the Dham. The Dham also gives the love of God at Rajarenu. He was in Vrindavan and like that. So in Mayapur, so both of the Dhams they bestow the mercy on the pure sadhakas, and the holy name possesses everything. It's like a sutra for the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Just by chanting whole name, you can understand the universe. You can understand everything. So there was no. But yes, seems that he couldn't read at least Sanskrit. That's I'm sure of. I'm not sure about Bengali because he was saying about those songs. But again, songbooks they sing in the songs, and so you know them by heart. You don't need to read really. He just knew that which songbooks are they. But he could know it by just name. Anything else?
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhu. It's just remarkable to see the contrast between Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur and Gaura Das Babaji. And just demonstrates even more that the guru-disciple relationship transcends all sorts of conventional barriers, like that verse says. What's that? Vaishnavam, Svapacho to Guru. Can't remember now. That even if someone comes as a dog eater or comes from a dog eater family, but knows Krishna and is Vaishnava, then they're actually Guru. Like there's no material limitation on that. So I just feel like that relationship demonstrates that especially.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
No, Srila Prabhupada, if you think about it, he made out of monkeys spiritual masters, like literally. He was coming to a hippie community specifically, where devotees were naked. I mean, the future devotees, they were just naked, or planting potatoes and sitting on the trees and singing love songs in the night. Prabhupada would come there, and he would see those naked people. One devotee, I don't want to mention names, but there are quite many who came from 3 prominent sannyasis came from the farm. 3 prominent ISKCON leaders came from that farm from the time when Prabhupada came, and a few more devotees also. Still practicing. None of them, okay, we don't know exactly the destiny of one of them, but anyhow, if you study history, ISKCON, I just don't want to mention because we don't want to speak about the past. But the point is that Prabhupada transformed those devotees, those conditioned souls. He transformed them to this highest, put them in the highest platform. Well, one of them was very prominent spiritual master, having lots of disciples. Transformed. Those disciples are super powerful. Today, still, they're super powerful. Doing a lot of service. So this group works like anything. So that's the testimony. Prabhupada could transform anyone to if they had that only one thing, a sincere desire to surrender to the words of their spiritual master. And serve the Vani, of course. I mean, Bapu at that time also. So, how many minutes more we have? Okay, so the details will open in 2 minutes, and so there. Okay, there's a. I'll just read it. There's Gorkeshwar. Sorry, just my glass. Gorkeshwar Das Babaji Maharaj was illiterate. He could not sign even his name, but he was so spiritually elevated. My spiritual master, who was the topmost scholar of his time, he accepted him as spiritual master. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.11. June 10, 1969, New Vrindavan. So thank you for quotation. So this is perfect. Thank you. So let's celebrate together. We're gonna do the deity greetings and Guru Puja, and then we'll quickly watch the Parvanal and do another Guru Puja Arati and Pushpanjali to Gorkeshwar Das Babaji. So Gorkeshwar Das Babaji Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. All glories to the Son devotee. Hare Krishna.
Jaya Lalita Vishaka Jaya Lalita Vishaka Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Lalita Vishaka Lalita Vishaka Lalita Vishaka Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Nitai Gaura Sundari Nitai Gaura Sundari Prabhupada, Prabhupada,
Now, we'll go which one value one side for sure. And then have another puja will be chanted again Vashtika Kirtan. Each one is a so someone that's good. Yeah.
Krishna Prema Dayate Krishna Ya Krishna Krishna Bhaktirupa Sarvabhagam Bhaktavatara Bhaktikam Namami Bhakti Jai Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jaganpate Yogeshwar Gopika Kanta Radha Namaste Dayanam Sivado Mango Mama Manda Kati Matsarvasva Lamboja Vadamadana Mohan Divya Vidavanya Kalpadrumadaha Srimad Vandagara Simhasana So Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Vishaladev Sajamano Srimad Rasa Rasalampi Varshivalta Tapasya Harshavenu Sanargopi Gopinatha Sri Srinath Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhamu Sutadevi Ramami Hare Krishna Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura